The Templeton twins have an idea by Ellis, Weiner. When you hear the bell ring, be sure to go to the top of the next page to continue reading along. Let's begin with the prologue page. Prologue, the beginning. The end. Questions for review. Number 1. Did you enjoy the prologue? Number 2. Do you think it made the slightest bit of difference to me whether you did or not? Actual prologue, trying to get started. The Templeton twins, Abigail and John, were blah, 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 etc. and so forth. Yes, I admit, the above sentence isn't very good. Well, too bad. You will have to bear with me, reader. I have never done this sort of thing before. Written books. Told stories to complete strangers who, frankly, I may not particularly like. Yes, I'm referring to you. Would I like you if I met you? I'm not so sure I would. Of course, you can say, well, maybe I wouldn't like you if I met you, narrator. Well, that isn't likely. It is indeed a possibility. And yet, when I contemplate such an occasion, I cannot help but ask myself, do I want the reader to like me? Do I care? I think we can all agree that I don't care. Believe me, I am not writing these words because I want to. I am writing them because I am compelled to. That is why I wrote the end in the prologue. I had hoped you would read that and be fooled into thinking you had read the entire book, which I would then not actually have to write. I had hoped you would look up and say to your parent or guardian or sibling or bodyguard, "My, that was a short book. I'm not sure anything actually happened in it, but it says the end, so something must have." However, I can see by the fact that you are reading this now that I was wrong. I was unable to fool you. You must be smarter than I thought. Very well, if you are so terribly, terribly smart, why don't you write this book? Just fill it in right here. I see you have failed to fill it in. It's not as easy as it looks, is it? Fine. Let's move on. Day 1, 12 years earlier. Hold on. You may be thinking, earlier than what? Nothing has happened yet, so how can anything be earlier than nothing? In reply, I can say only that it seemed like a good idea to write. One day, 12 years earlier. But now, I'm having second thoughts. I shall try writing the prologue again. But wait. First, let us all agree on what a prologue is. A prologue is the part of the story that happens before the event of the main story itself. Pro means before, and log means, whatever it means, look it up. Why do I have to do everything? The purpose of the prologue is to establish something important that will have consequences later. There, we all agree on what a prologue is. That is, I have told you what it is, and you agree with me. Now at last, finally, Here is the actual prologue. Actual prologue. Getting started again. One day, 12 years earlier, Professor Elton Templeton was in his office at Elgin University talking with a student. Normally, the professor enjoyed meeting with students in his office, but today he was distracted by the fact that his wife was about to give birth to their first baby. However, he had been told that the baby would not be ready to be born for some time, so he decided to conduct his usual office hours. He had met with all the students who wished to speak with him except this one. This young man, who was quite good-looking, had come to the professor's office to protest the grade the professor had given him in a course entitled Introduction to System Dynamics. Do you know what that means? Of course you don't. And yet I do. Fortunately for both you and me, what it means is irrelevant to our story. For now, just bear in mind that the professor was a renowned engineer and inventor, and so he taught courses in things like systems and dynamics. The grade the professor had given this student was an F, which is the worst grade you can possibly get. The professor had never given anyone an F before, and in case you are interested, he never would again. He didn't like giving anyone an F, and he didn't like arguing over grades. He was uncomfortable with the entire discussion. But as he explained, the good-looking student had left him no choice. "Look here," the professor said, "you left me no choice. You cheated on all your exams." This made the student even more upset. "But I came to all your lectures." "Yes, but you slept through them," the professor said, "and you handed in reports that were proven to have been written by someone else." The door to the professor's office opened. Standing there was the secretary of the engineering department. She was very excited. "Professor," she said breathlessly, "the hospital called. The babies are coming." "Oh my goodness," the professor said. As he got up from his desk, he said to the young man, "Now, you will have to excuse me. The babies are coming." "But we're not finished," the young man said. "You have to give me at least a C, or I'll flunk out of college." "I cannot give you a C," the professor said, hastily stuffing papers into his briefcase and grabbing his hat. "You can't go," the young man said. "You have to listen to me." "Our meeting is concluded," the professor said. "The babies are coming, and I must be at the hospital." The professor was about to hurry out of the building when something occurred to him. He stopped at the secretary's desk. "Did you say babies?" he asked. She had. As Professor Elton Templeton discovered upon arriving at the hospital, his wife had had 2 babies, which, as you may know, is twice as many as 1. Somehow, when the doctors had given Professor Templeton's wife her checkups, they had not seen that there were 2 babies, 1 boy and 1 girl. Professor Templeton was amazed and delighted by this news. After visiting his wife to make sure she was all right, she was. He went to the nursery, which is a special room in the hospital where newly born babies sleep during the time they are not with their mothers. Take a second to look at the pictures from A to G. The professor found a spot among the other adults, looking through the big glass window at the various sleeping babies. Each one slept in a little shallow bed, hung with a card showing the mother's last name. A long card reading Templeton stretched across two beds in which two babies slept side by side. One wore a blue cap and the other wore a pink cap. As you may be aware, when it comes to babies, it is not obvious who is a boy and who is a girl. For this reason, some people make sure that the boy babies wear blue clothes and girl babies wear pink clothes to signal who is what. If the color-coded clothes make the babies look fabulous, all the better. The professor did what all new parents do. He tapped on the window and made silly little cooing noises in an effort to get the attention of his just-born, deeply sleeping babies. The professor was wearing his customary clothes, which included a pair of baggy white pants and a billow white shirt. He looked as though he worked for the hospital. Maybe that was why, when a man standing next to him saw the professor tapping on the window, he became curious and asked, "Who are they?" "They?" the professor replied. "Why, they are the Templeton twins." Questions for review. Number 1. The author has succeeded in writing an actual prologue. Aren't you proud of him? 2. What do you mean no? 3. Explain in 50 words or less why you believe the story will actually get started and why it will be wonderful. This concludes the end of the prologue.